Okay, so are there any other things happening, any other time markers that let us know how close we are to that end point? And the way I look at it is there's a beginning of the end, which Christ talked about, a middle of the end when that mark is issued, and an end of the end at atonement. Um, so when I talk about the end is coming, I'm talking about there's a beginning of the end. And in most of my videos, we have at least peppered in that God fulfills feast days and the feast where he's going to start the next major involvement of the autumn feast where the lion is coming this time, not the lamb. The lamb was the first four feasts. Now the lion's coming because now the lion is angry. And I invite you to check out Revelation 10, although there's many verses that we could go over, and we will probably do that in a future video, looking at this lion that is roaring, this Yom Hadin, this day of judgment, this day of accounting, this God looking at who has taken his generous offer to become a new creation in Christ and cutting off the slaves who have refused that offer. And now they're going to be presented with a whole new offer, a new offer from Adam Kadmon, from the Kabbalah Messiah who is coming, this king of Babylon, this Babylon 2.0. So we've been talking about that in so many videos, and that's coming. And the question I posed originally is there anything else that we have to tell us that the time is near? Well, I told you that one of my favorite go-to channels that I always go to, I don't think he's a Christian. If he is, he never says it, but I don't think he is. He just put out another video 27 minutes ago, and let's enjoy this together. Stores closing, debt rising, mass store closures continue. Economy suffering. So they are sucking the wealth out of the dollar. All of these banks, all of these rich elite people are using their knowledge of finance, abusing it, and stealing the wealth out of the middle class, stealing the wealth out of the poor. And they are, what I'm telling you is it looks as though they are creating the conditions for the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And we're going to do future videos talking about why you're having cowboy stuff put in your face and videos and music and all kinds of things. There is a cowboy coming. There is the Antichrist who is coming. And all of these things in my videos all go together. And this here would represent their means and efforts towards the human aspect of creating the third seal, that global famine. So I have videos talking about crop failure on all 7 continents. Go check those out, please. And now we're going to hear about how even though the government, your president, all the Masons are telling you that the economy is just dandy, it's just dandy, you're going to find out that when the proof is in the pudding is through massive store closures. And if you go fish through, and he's not the only one, by the way, the Silver Report Uncut, I believe it is. He also is a financial analyst, a professional, and he talks about many of the same topics together, and they're warning you and telling you that they are setting you up. They don't so much talk about the biblical aspect of it, but they are telling you what's actually happening in true finance with your dollar. And the same conditions of 2008 are being done now 11 years later. And there's only so much that can be done to push forward this Ponzi scheme. But I'm telling you that when you read the Bible and you see the Revelation 6, 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and those 7 seals, they're setting up for all those. That's what I'm telling you. Let's listen.
You can look at the store closures and dismiss the details. You can see the layoffs and do the same. You can choose to only see government-provided statistics and ignore the remainder. But if you want the truth, you must connect the dots. Only those who are willing to look deeper will understand what's going on. Those who have their life attached to something will never allow their normalcy bias to be overridden. Shame though, so many will be hurt. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at the data related to the store closures, the layoffs. I'm going to give you the details of what's happening with people's debt. That is the true underlying reason why we are seeing what we have been in the past 10 years. Supposedly a booming economy, supposedly a booming market, and yet all of these statistics have been adding up, have been piling up, and in time we are going to have to face the music. Let's get into it. Walgreens said in a Securities and Exchange Commission filing on Tuesday that it would close 200 stores in the U.S. after announcing plans to shutter 200 stores in the U.K. This is a very serious event when you see these major retailers that are shutting down. And of course, you point to the retailers. It's always retailers. Well, that's because of Amazon. That's because of e-commerce. Well, hold on for just a minute. 26 Sears and Kmart stores are set to close in October. Company cannot rule out more closures this year. I don't know how these companies have more stores. I thought they closed literally thousands already. Here we are today with more of these stores closing down. Now, while most people will say, fine, good riddance, think about the people, number one, who work for these companies, as well as those individuals that work near these anchor stores that are no longer going to be able to do business simply because they were so important, so integral to that mall, to that plaza, the shopping center, whatever the case may be. This is important because it has a ripple effect, an indirect effect. It might not hit necessarily that month, that year, but it will have an impact and will slow down the economy as a whole. The less people that are employed in a geographic region is going to put a further burden on them. This is anywhere you look. Barney's New York is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, the latest retailer to buckle as shoppers move online. That's the excuse they're using. I'll tell you why that isn't the case. The iconic clothier, founded almost a century ago, will keep the doors open at its 10-story Madison Avenue store, but it secured $75 million in financing to pay employees and vendors as it seeks a buyer. They are
Okay, wait a second. I gotta just say this. I know because I've listened to him for so long. I know his personality, and I know the things that he talks about and that he repeats things. And he has explained that stores. Now listen, store sales, friends, only account for a certain very small percentage, less than a quarter, and that's a very conservative, generous number of all the sales. So what I'm saying is the media and the newspapers and all that are lying to you, saying that we're seeing a slump in sales on all these store closings and stuff because people are buying on the internet. That's a lie. And he shows you all the data points. Just go fish through his videos for the last 6 months. Spend a couple days checking him out, and he will explain to you as a professional financier that that is not true. The reason why stores are closing en masse the way that they are is because they have stolen the wealth. The elite have stolen the money out, the value rather, out of your dollar, and we are seeing massive economic problems as a result. So it's important to understand that the reason that they're telling you about this economic collapse basically that's happening is not the truth. It's not because people are buying more online. That's not true at all. It's because the people that are in power and control are stealing all the wealth out of your money. And he explains that here. Let's listen a little more about what he's saying. I just had to get that out there. Sorry.
Trying to keep this open, but if they got into this position, they are going to find themselves on the streets regardless. That's just the way it is. The same thing with Sears, trying to bail the company out. It's bleeding out everywhere. It's hemorrhaging, and yet you're still trying to fix it. Look, unfortunately, for different reasons, each of these different retailers has a problem in one way, shape, or form. Maybe it's bad management. Maybe it's their problems with their supply chains. You know, it could be anything. However, when you see it the way it is, many times it can't be fixed. CVS slows store expansion plans, cuts pace by a third. So we had heard that CVS was going to do this maximum expansion. They were going out there and they were going to open these new stores. They were going to be integrated in with these different types of vendors, different types of applications for people that they can use, and not just about necessarily selling products. Well, this has now slowed down. You could see that they are still opening stores, yes. However, the pace of which cut by a third, and they are trying to basically slow this back because they know what's going on in the economy. They can see that. We'll see the actual total by the end of the year. Usually it's much less than what they initially believed. If you want to know the details about how many stores are opening, how many stores are closing, by the way, I bring this up in every video I do like this because I always see that some individuals don't actually watch the videos and they make silly comments. So this is for you. You can look at coresite.com. They track this. You get this snapshot every single week telling you how many store closures, how many store openings, and the details are right here. So far this year, US retailers have announced 7,567 store closures and 3,064 store openings, and that is much worse than we saw in 2018. We're looking.
So take that in. You have almost 8,000 stores closing and just a paltry 3,000 opening this year. And then when you look at the data points of almost 6,000 closures last year with just just over 3,200 opening for 2018, you got to beg the question, what is happening? And can we keep it together when you have that many store closings versus that many store openings? And even if those stores open, who is to say that they'll have any level of longevity and security? There's a dominoes type of effect at some point that has to happen where all the dominoes fall. And then he looks at what has happened here in the UK as well. These are not good things. Yeah, so moving along, he talks about how the auto sector crisis deepens. They're doing really bad with the automobiles. Look at this. Around 2.5 million people were employed directly through or around 26,000 automobile showrooms operated by 15,000 dealers. Another 2.5 are indirectly employed in the dealership ecosystem, he added. Let's listen to what's going on here.
However, if you look, India is right now suffering big time. Their central bank cutting rates. You could see that the auto sector crisis deepens around 200,000. I believe that term there means 100,000 jobs cut in the last 3 months. If my term is not correct, please correct me on that. However, you're looking at a major change that is going on in India right now, and it's just one more country. I did a video yesterday, I believe it was, showing you the different central banks and how they have started to cut interest rates, whether that's New Zealand, you've seen Australia do the same thing. Other central banks have all gone into this easing cycle, but we've been in that cycle for 10 years. Why in the world have all of these governments gone into this same policy? They are trying to do this because they're trying to stop the crisis from unfolding. It never finished. This is why I call it the financial crisis part 2 and not.
Okay, wait a minute. I would say that the narrative that they're telling you is, we're doing this to stop the crisis. Now, again, I'm not sure this man is a Christian. I'm not sure he reads the Bible. I'm not sure he understands from a biblical worldview. What I would tell you, what I see happening with the biblical intelligence that the Lord has given us, is that they are causing this to happen, but they have it on a major control. And I don't know how they do this because I'm not a big financial person, but I can say this. Along the way of causing these problems, they're stealing the wealth. They're putting it in their own pockets, okay? They're creating a end times global economic destruction so that you will, for those who are going to be here for it, you're going to be in a weakened position where you have to go along with whatever they tell you. You have to worship who they say. You have to do what they want you to do. You have to think the thoughts that they want you to. And you're not going to have the position of a nice, meaty job or income or even the freedom to say, think, or do what you want. They're weakening your ability to resist them, is what I'm saying. They are weakening your ability to fight against them and to take away your platform of power and strength through the financial collapse that they are hastening, but under their controls, under their directives, under their manipulation. That's what's happening, I'm telling you. And when they're ready to bring this sucker to its knees and let it go, the Bible, remember, was the one that was standing there warning you that they were going to do it, and even called it the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And this is why, as you have all this financial destruction that's taking place, he just told you they've been doing it globally now for 10, 11 years. you can only kick the can down the alley, or so, whatever you want to call that, so to speak, for just so long. And this Ponzi scheme has got to fall, and they're going to, and they want to. They like this idea. They tell you that transhumanism is what they're going to do. Elon Musk says that this mark weird thing, he's not calling it a mark, but the RFID chip, this connecting with the AI, is not mandatory yet. But this is all to weaken your resolve so that you cannot resist their will.